Thanks so much to all my patrons. Join now to help support the channel and help pick the books I review on this channel. Link in the description. Hey everybody, so it is the last day of the month, and it is time for me to go over my March recap video. Just like always, I'm going to be going over, first, a little bit of a life update. I'm going to talk about my channel updates, go over my channel and reading stats, do a little recap of the books that I read, and then go over the books that have been sent to me over the past month from publishers and authors. So starting with life, as always, my life is kind of consumed right now by work and kids doing school and sports. That's mostly what my day is when I get off work. My kids are unfortunately playing sports where I'm not coaching both of them, or my wife isn't coaching one of them. And that's a problem, because when my wife was coaching soccer for our son and I was coaching our daughter in soccer, we strong-armed the league into letting us have fields right next to each other at the same time so that it didn't disrupt our week. But now my wife just doesn't really know anything about baseball in terms of, she watches it. She watches the Giants with me, but in coaching, it's kind of hard to coach baseball because there's so many weird rules and it's hard to keep the kids focused. But I'm coaching my son's team, but not my daughter's team. And so, the practices are all over the place. So, almost every day of the week, there's something happening sports-wise after school or on the weekends. It is a lot. It's a lot. And at the same time, the indoor soccer still isn't done. We have, a couple more weeks of that. So when that's done, then we'll only have 2 sports going on at the same time. And then summer will hit with nothing, which will be amazing. That'll be dope. So speaking of baseball, Giants baseball is starting soon. So I'm as you might have figured out by watching my videos by now, I'm an enormous sports fan. Watching, playing, coaching, it's my life outside of this, and family and stuff. It's part of my life, let's just say that. But I'm a huge Giants fan. Can't wait for the season to start. I just love so much. There's something so calming about the fact that there's 162 baseball games a year. You can kind of always have it on in the background. You don't have to pay strict attention to it. It's just comforting to have around and being able to watch it all the time. And it's such a great sport. And the Giants look like they might have a promising season this year. I've been looking at this season like it's going to be atrocious, but it should be fun. And the Giants division looks really good. So it should be really fun. All the teams in that division could be really good. So yeah. I had some people on my last live stream that I did. And sorry for my live stream times. I do them at weird times that most people can't make them. But that's when I have time free. So, and I don't really advertise them. I just kind of go live. But they were asking me about my nose. So if you didn't know, I lost my ability to smell, I don't know, 6 months, maybe 9 months ago, a while back. And it was replaced with I can only smell one smell, and it's really bad. So everything smells the same, and it's not good. I've learned to cope with it. It doesn't impact my life as much anymore. I'm just kind of used to it, so not a big deal. But still trying to, try to figure out the solution to it, if there is one. Kind of settled to the point now where I'm just kind of going to live with it. But there's weird things I can smell that make it so I can smell for a little while right afterwards. So I kind of keep them near and sniff them a lot, and then it kind of kickstarts my smell. And then I'm going to start acupuncture soon, which I don't really believe in, but my wife does, and so I'm doing it. And hopefully she's right. When you watch this video, I will have just been getting back from a vacation to Lake Tahoe. Which is pretty close to my house. My parents have a timeshare there. We go a couple times a year. I've been going there my whole life to ski and hang out. But when I'm recording this, I'll be leaving in the morning. So really looking forward to that. It should be really nice. Love going there with my family in the snowy season. Should be fun. And you might also know that I work in politics. So my job is kind of dependent on my boss getting reelected, which is always kind of stressful. But the election went really well. In March was their primary. They were successful in the primary. Now it will go to the general election. But things look so good in the primary that it makes things a little more stress-free going into the general election, but we'll see. I also was up for a small office, and I won by a lot. And I don't have to go to the general election. So cool. It's a position I've been in for like 20 years now, so it's not a huge surprise that I would win, but it's cool. It's always nice to know that the community supports you. So that's nice. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Discord server. So the Discord server, if you're not familiar with Discord, it's like modern day kind of chat room, but with a lot more functionality. Like there's a server that you can be in, and there's lots of different sub rooms in it. It's perfect for a channel like this where we can talk about books and open up rooms to talk about books. It's a lot of fun. I thought it was kind of silly before I got into it, but then when I did, I was like, this is really cool. It's a great way to kind of build community and have a great time. So if you're not there, you should be. It's just where everybody hangs out in between my videos and talks about videos and talks about books in general. So if you're ever looking for a community to chat about stuff you're reading, this is the place to be. We're now at about 2,700 people, which is up like 250 from last month. So yeah, go us. So join now. That'd be great. The Discord this past month just finished up a buddy read, which is like an online book club of Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. It was a lot of fun. We read like 40 to 50 pages a day, and we have a daily discussion on the assigned chapters for that day. Dozens of people involved. Ton of fun. This coming month, we're going to be doing Malazan with Gardens of the Moon. So you should check that out because I've heard a lot of people that say they're intimidated by Malazan. It's a dense read. It has a lot of stigma around it for being really, really hard to understand. And so when I announced that I'm doing Malazan, tons of people flocked to the Discord because they're like, this is a great opportunity for me to get into it. So if you're in that boat or you want to reread it, like what I'm going to be doing, come join. It should be a fun. So this is the part of the video where I talk about all the video games I've played over the past month. But I haven't really. I've only played one game. It's not because I'm not playing video games. I'm just only playing that game, and I'm addicted to it, and I can't stop playing it. And it's SnowRunner. I talked about it last month, but now this is 2 months straight where I basically only played that game, and I am not bored of it. There's so much content, and it's such a great audiobook game that it's just I hope that I'm playing this for months. But yeah, it's awesome. And I cannot talk any more positively over this game where you drive really, really slow and try not to tip over. So let's go over to the channel stats. This month I read 9 books, which was about 5,000 pages, which brings me up to 30 total books this year, which is way above my normal average, and about 15,000 pages for the year, which is a little bit above average. The reason that I have a lot more books on average than pages on average is because I've read a few small books that normally I don't do. So this brings my average score to the year to 3.81, which is about average for me over the past several years. My views this month was 118,000, which is down 28,000. The hours watched this month was about 10,000, which is down about 4,000. And my subscriptions this month to the channel were about 1,000, which was down 400 from the previous month. This is all down because I had this video that totally caught the algorithm about how to get your ebooks for free. It's still a little bit in the algorithm, but it's definitely fading out of it. But it was popping for a while, and it's now my #1 most watched video. And it just randomly kind of got big, like 9 months after I released it. So YouTube, you're weird. So it's still my #1 video for the month. It got 22,000 views in the past 30 days, which is way less than the previous month, but still crazy good. And my #2 video is way less than that, and it's about 4,000 views, and it was my top 10 fantasy books, numbers 80 through 71. My #3 video with about 4,000, but a little bit less than #2, was my 𝐒𝐿𝐴 review, which is kind of like an alternative to the Kindle, and I love it. All right, so let's talk about the books. The first book I read was The Eye of the Bedlam Bride. This is by Matt Dinniman. It is the, I think, 5th book in Dungeon Crawler Carl, and I predicted a 4. I ended up giving it a 5. And it's arguably my favorite book in the bunch. I loved it. It's so good. I mean, I've talked enough about Dungeon Crawler Carl on this channel where I don't need to go back and tell you what it's about, because it'd be like my 10th time explaining what Dungeon Crawler Carl is about. But this is the book where it feels like things are finally getting to that epic that I wanted for a while. There's been teasers for a while in these books that there's this bigger story going on than just the dungeon, where Carl's going to try to, take out the people that are running this game at the galaxy level, which seems impossible. But so many things in this book, the idea, I think, is that, the impossible is possible. So I love that the book is getting broader, and, there's still that tightness to the stories, but we're getting this stuff that makes me be like, I want these suckers that are causing all these people to do horrible things to die a horrible death. And up until this point, it feels like they're going to get away with it. And now it's like, oh no, they're super going to get it by the end of this series, and I am along for the ride. The next book I read was A Darkness at Sethanon. This is the last book in the Riftwar saga by Raymond D. Feist. I predicted a 4. Sadly, I give it a 3. So this is a 4-book quartet about the Riftwar saga. The Riftwar cycle is all of the books in the Rift War. So kind of like the Realm of the Elderlings, where you have this big series, but then you have individual little series within it. Is kind of like the way this series is structured. Sadly, I liked each of the books less than the one preceding it, and that is not the direction you want to go. You want it to be the other way around. This book felt like it was not doing anything new. I didn't love the direction the story's gone. I felt like the book should have ended. The series should have ended after the second book, or even the first one. It would have been a nice ending. But then we had to bring in this new big bad character, and things got wacky for no real reason, and I just didn't really love it. I never hated it, but certainly never liked it. In fact, a 3 might even be generous. But I feel like a 3 is the accurate score for what I felt about it. But very disappointed. I just feel like there was so much promise to the series, and it just went downhill. It does not take me out of my interest in Rift War, though. There's promise here. And so many people have told me that Janny Wurtz, who co-wrote, co-wrote with Raymond D. Feist, another series within this that you're supposed to read next. And I forget the name of it right now. It'll come to me in the middle of the night. I'll wake up and be like, it's this. The Empire trilogy. I think it's the Empire trilogy. And so many people told me it's the best one, and it's so much better than what I read. Like in Rift War, you've got these two worlds that are connected by a rift, and they don't like each other because they're alien to each other, and they go to war, as you would expect would happen in this situation. But the story is being told from the side, like the perspective of these people, and this other series is told the same time period from the perspective of these people. I love that idea. I seriously love that idea. I wish more books would do this kind of thing, and I can't wait to read it. And that'll come sometime in the next, I don't know, hopefully this year I'll get to it. I've got a lot of books on my docket this year. My TBR is overwhelming, as I'm sure yours is as well. Then I read A Little Hatred. This is the first book in the Age of Madness trilogy by Joe Abercrombie, which is in the wider First Law universe. Did I say Age of Madness trilogy? That's what I meant. But yeah, this trilogy is the second trilogy. So you've got the First Law, which is 3 books. You've got 3 standalones. And then you have these 3 other books in this new trilogy that takes place, I don't know, a few decades after the first one, with a lot of the same characters, but mostly it's the generation after that. A lot of the main characters' children are the stars of this one. And yeah, it was just great. I predicted a 5. I gave it a 5. I loved it. I mean, I thoroughly am convinced that the Age of Madness trilogy is better than the original First Law trilogy. I think it's a better story. I think overall I love the characters. There's a couple characters that I love more than the best characters from the Age of Madness, but that's about it. The story is just so good, and I feel like Abercrombie has increased his quality as a writer, which is hard to do because of how good he started out as. I mean, you'd expect people to get better, but he started off at such a great point that, to keep going is awesome. So yeah, I can't wait to read the next one in this trilogy. I think I'm going to be reading it next month. I don't know on my schedule yet, but I think, which is awesome because I just can't stop thinking about it. And the audiobook narration by Stephen Pacey is the greatest audiobook narration you're ever going to listen to in your life. Check it out if you haven't. All right, then I read Empire of the Damned. This is part of the Empire of the Vampire series. I think it's going to be a trilogy. This was the second book in it. This is by Jay Kristoff. I predicted a 5. I gave it a 5, and this gets the award for the best book that I read this month. It blew me out of the water. Truly blew me out of the water. I really loved the first one, but I read it a long time ago, and I've changed my opinions on some books that I love since then, and I'm worried, since I also read a book that Jay Kristoff wrote before Empire of the Vampire that I truly hated. And I'm like, man, maybe I'm just not a Kristoff fan. Maybe I was just like in the right mood, but clearly it wasn't a mood thing, because this is even better than the book that I loved. I mean, this is just incredible. It took everything that I loved about the first one and made it better. I felt like the first one could have used more point of views. This one did that. I feel like the first one could have been more epic in scale. This one did that. I feel like the first one could have toned back a little bit on the sexual gratuity. This one did that. I feel like this one could have driven the story a little bit more on like the wider world and showed me more of what's out there. This one did that. It did everything to truly perfection, and I won't stop thinking about it for a really, really, really long time. And if the third book in this trilogy is anything like the other two, it's going to go down as one of my favorite trilogies of all time, which is crazy for a vampire book. I mean, I have this prejudice, I think, against vampire books. Maybe it's because of when like Twilight came out, and it was like at a point where I was edgy and wanted to hate all things popular, and I thought it was ridiculous. And so I'm like, oh, clearly vampire stuff sucks. No, vampire stuff can be awesome. And J. Kristoff showed it in the series. So yeah, gotta check it out. All right, then I read Age of Ash. This is part of the 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐼𝐻 series by Daniel Abraham. Daniel Abraham is one half of the duo known as James S.A. Corey that wrote The Expanse. James S.A. Corey, if you didn't know, is a made-up name combining two authors together. I don't know the name of the other author, but I know Daniel Abraham was one of them. I predicted I'd give this one a 3, and I gave it a 3. I just never got its hooks in me. Pretty much at the beginning, I was like, this is gonna be a dud. It didn't do anything I hated. It didn't do anything I liked. I mean, it tells this tale of people living in this cool fantasy city with some interesting background, but it just never grabbed me. And I was like, am I missing something here? And I go on Goodreads and I look at it and I'm like, okay, no, I'm not. It's pretty low scored for a popular fantasy series. I mean, it's not a horrible score, like it's in the 3s, but there's great books in the 3s on Goodreads, don't get me wrong. But when you look at like really popular series and popular books and popular authors, when they're down there like that, it's more like a 2 because they get a bonus that other people aren't given. And it just kind of felt like that. I'm sad because I liked so much of what I read from The Expanse. I ended up dropping the series because I never fell in love with it, but I liked the writing in it. I don't know that I'm willing to give up on Daniel Abraham, but yeah, wasn't a fan. All right, speaking of books that I was not in love with, next up was 𝐿𝐴𝐼𝐿. This is part of the Baroque cycle by Neal Stephenson, an author I'd never heard of before this, but apparently he's somewhat popular, or quite popular. I rated it a 3, gave it a 1, DNF'd it, and it's the worst surprise and the worst book that I read this month. This thing is an insane book. It is like a million different genres in one, and it's written in this absolutely bizarre style where I feel like there's a large group of people that would absolutely be in love with this and feel like it's their favorite book of all time. And I feel like there's other people like me that'll hate it. I don't know that you're going to find a lot of people that are like okay on it because it's so adventurous at what it tries to do. First off, I think the author would even admit that there's really no plot here. It's just characters trying to do something that changes all the time, and there's no overarching plot that ties everything together. Instead, the book will like have a character doing something, and then they'll get distracted and the author will get distracted by telling you this dissertation on a really specific thing in sailing. And it'll spend pages and pages just going off talking about that in grand detail. And then come back, and then we'll go tell this other thing. And it's trying to weave together fake history involving a lot of historical characters that if you're really into this type of history, maybe you'll love it. I'm not super familiar with a lot of the people in it, so it didn't hit that chord with me. And I don't like this random writing. I want my plots to be really tight. I want to remember the plots forever. I don't need a story to have this brilliant writing and these interesting concepts and with a weak plot. I'd rather have a strong plot and weaker writing. That's just my preference. And this one was just the worst of all worlds for me, and I hated it. All right, next up is The Ice. This is part of the Bound and the Broken series by Ryan Cahill. I predicted a 4, I gave it a 3. A lot of 3s this month. I know 3s is like one of my rarest scores I give, but I give a lot of them. That's just what I felt. The Bound and the Broken is one of my favorite series. The way The Bound and the Broken is written is it's like an epic fantasy story and then a novella, epic fantasy story novella, epic fantasy novella. So this is the 6th book. It's the 3rd novella. I have loved the other 2 novellas. I kind of thought I would love this one, and I loved the idea of it. I mean, The Bound and the Broken is this epic fantasy story akin to like Wheel of Time, but better, in my opinion. And the novella, it's the first time where I'm like, I need to know the answer to this question. In The Bound and the Broken, you've got these dragons that are coming back, or one dragon that came back to try to fight for good. And after dragons have been dead for a really long time. And you don't know why it came back or how it came back. And this story promises to tell you that story about how it came back. Awesome. I'm hooked. I'm in. But then the story I got has been told a lot of times before. In many other books that I've read. It's this story, and maybe you've read books like this before, where you have a character going on a quest. In this case, it's to get a dragon egg, but insert something else for other books. And they have to go through some barren wasteland or jungle or very harsh environmental situation where people in their party die, and they end up getting attacked by unknown beasts along the way. And it's harrowing. And I've read that a lot. And so it did nothing fresh for me in the slightest. And then it didn't really tell me any backstory that I feel like I needed to know. It's like, this thing could have been like 50 pages and fine, but it was like 200 or 300. And the characters that we focused on, I feel like it didn't show me a new side of them that I didn't get. So it just never really did anything for me. And yeah, that's a shame. So, speaking of 3s, let's talk about this one. And this is Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. I predicted a 4.5, gave it a 3.5. And 3.5, I think, is what I gave it the first time. But I scored this a 3.5 the first time I read it, years ago, before I knew anything about scoring. And I feel like my 3.5 was actually a 4.5, because I definitely disliked this more this time than the first time. But the scoring ended up being the same. Yeah, I mean, I haven't released my review on this, so I'm not going to go in depth. I am waiting because if you remember, I did a video review a couple months back of Fourth Wing with my wife and my wife's like best friend, and it was a lot of fun. And I didn't like it, they did, and we had a really fun back and forth. And so I told them after that was done, I was like, all right, I read your book, now you got to read one of my books. And so I said, let's read Warbreaker. It's not my favorite book I've ever read. I liked it, but I feel like it's a good bridge for the things that you both are into. And it might get you more into the fantasy that I like. Slowly drip feed them into the stuff that I actually do like. But I just didn't love it. It feels early Brandon Sanderson. It feel like it was Sanderson light, where you had too much setup. It felt like the whole book is a setup for the end. And that's just too much. I mean, I do feel like the ending was really, really, really good. I know that we did a buddy read on this month, and there were people that were like, yeah, the ending wasn't great. I loved the ending. But it just took too far to get to that point. And Sanderson perfected that with Stormlight Archive, where you do have these wonderful, huge, epic endings, but you have this awesome stuff happening up to that point. Major moments, major battles, major twists. And this one just saved it all for the end. And I just didn't really enjoy it. It felt more like Elantris to me than like Mistborn, Stormlight. Whatever. All right, next up is Young Miles. This is part of the 𝗂𝗂𝐼𝐴 saga. This is by Lois McMaster-Bujold. I predicted a 3, and I gave it a 4.5. And that gets the award for the best surprise of the month. I really, 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 really like this thing. It was really good. Borderline loved it. And so Young Miles is a omnibus of 3 stories. I really loved 2 of them, and I really didn't love another one. And that's why I ended up giving them 4.5. This series is quite old. It's from the 80s, but won a ton of awards in the 80s. But I don't feel like it had the lasting power that a lot of books end up getting. It didn't end up like Wheel of Time that got more popular over time. This one just kind of faded out, I feel like, into, it's not recruiting a lot of new readers to it. And I don't know why. I mean, this thing has so many of the things that more modern fantasy has and perfects them. I mean, the character work is incredible. The plotting's great. The characters are just extremely well done. Just fun adventure tales. I can't wait to keep reading. I don't think I'm going to do the omnibus the next time. I'm going to read like these. They're small. They're like 300 pages. I'm going to use them as kind of my Discworld type of palate cleansers. They're very different books than Discworld. They're not like laugh out loud funny. There's some humor to them, but nothing like that. They're like adventure tales. Fun little, let's go solve a mystery, or let's go, fight the bad guys and have fun and use our wits to try to, outsmart them. And yeah, awesome stuff. All right, almost done with the video, but I have a few books that were sent to me this month. Normally I have a lot. This month I did not. I think if I were to go check the P.O. box, which I did not have time to do today, I only really check it like once or twice a month, I'd see a lot of books in there. But I didn't have time. So there's only 3 today. So first up is a chonker. Look at this thing. It's huge. How many pages is this? Wow, really small type, too. It's 720-something pages, and it's really small type. All right, but this is Born of Fire. This is part of the Dawn of Legend series. Is it by Dragon? I got one name. That's badass. Yeah, it's by Dragon. How awesome are you to just have one name? Hey, signed it. Thanks, Dragon. That's such a dope name. I'll read the back. The back is very short. A young man named Rex awakens to find himself lost in a strange and beautiful world called Enara. E-E-N-A-R-A. Right. A breathtaking, wondrous place filled with sentient dinosaurs and a race of humanoid creatures called Severians, all of which possess a living flame, the physical manifestation of the cosmic forces that gave birth to and bind the universe together. With the help of 5 wayward new friends, Rex learns to harness the destructive power of his own flame before settling out on them on a journey to confront a dragon army from beyond the stars that threatens war upon their world. Right, sounds dope. Thanks, Dragon. All right, next up is a small boy, and this one is Serpent's End. This is book 1 of the 𝐿 trilogy by Lauren Hilliker, and that is a dope cover. All right, this is a big, actually it's not that long. It just looks long. Sailors desperately hunt for catches of buried treasure and pray to avoid the dragons, who hunt the skies in constant search for gold to fill their hoards. But some crews, those particularly skilled or reckless, hunt the dragons. Elliot Arkwright dreams of becoming a wingbinder, one of these dragon hunters. They are endowed with mystical tattoos that burn gold for power. Power he hopes to use to free his mother from prison. And time is running out. Dragons are breaking through the boundaries of the 𝐿 in greater numbers than ever before, threatening all nearby human settlements. To stop the devastation and free his mother, Elliot will have to join the crew of the legendary ship Serpent's End on a quest for more dangerous than anything he had ever imagined. They must hunt an elder dragon, a threat so great it endangers the entire world. They're widely considered unkillable or immortal, and the elder dragon may be hunting them too. Sounds pretty cool. I need to do like I should do like a bingo game in the background on these and like check it off when we get it, and dragons needs to be on there. Because I feel like a lot of the books sent to me are dragons. All right, next up. Subscription Children by Dennis Schramer. Dennis Schramer sent me another book before. I think this is the second book in his series. Where is it? Yeah, The Light in Death. I'm just looking at it right now. All right. Everlife Industries has made even the most minor problems a thing of the past. Among their products, none were more impactful than androids. They were designed to be just about anything, including children. Amelia Ocean is just an android, a former subscription child herself. Now she just wants to live a peaceful life pretending to be human with an adopted daughter, but 2 people aim to disturb that peace. Maki Satori, a feature journalist, is given a 2-week deadline to write an earth-shattering story to save her job, and Isaiah Castile, a heavily modified human worker for Everlife, is tasked with decommissioning androids to save his livelihood. Amelia is caught in the middle, with 1 in 10 of digging up her past, the other stealing her future. All right, man, I did this video perfect, because I have 40 seconds left before this video automatically shuts off. My camera will only record for 30-minute stints, and we only have 30 seconds left. So, with that, let me say, I hope you watch my TBR video. It will not come out tomorrow because I'm going to be on vacation, and I don't have time to edit on vacation. So it'll come out on the 2nd, which is my first time ever with a TBR video not coming out on the 1st. And I know none of you care, but God, that's gonna bother my OCD brain. But I'm out of time. So thank you so much for watching this long video, and as always, happy reading to you. Thanks again to all of my patrons, with a special shout out to my Ascendant tier and Librarian tier patrons: Anna G, CJ, Doust, Darren, Gil, Gregory, JD, Jonathan, Nathan T, Nev's Book Channel, 𝗿𝘁𝑒𝐴𝑐𝑖𝑎, Ron Reich, Russell, Ryan L, Sydney Baker, Tay C, Tahir, Tommy, Zion, Anna, Andra, Blair, Brock, Evan, Joe UK, Kat Mick, Michael Sugarman, Philippe, Sky, and Wacky. Thanks for sticking to the end of this video, and if you want to watch some more content from my channel, click over here and I've got some good videos for you. Thanks so much.